Well, thank you for all those Bible readings. For this evening's sermon, I've taken the title, What is the Message of Christmas? And we have a strong clue in the word Christmas itself, Christ Mass. I hope it isn't stating the obvious, but Christ is in the title. The event of Christmas is about Jesus Christ. And why does he matter 2025 years after his birth? Why do we still remember and celebrate his birth? What is the message of Christmas? Well, it's that in Jesus Christ, God has made himself known to the human race. That's the big thing that I want to explore over the next few minutes. God's made himself known to the world, to humanity. In the busyness of buying presents, finishing work projects before the end of the year, and sending festive greetings to family and friends, this topic can feel far removed from everyday reality. But when we come to church and we sing the Christmas carols which have been passed down to us, and we listen to the Christmas Bible readings that have shaped our British culture, we find that there is a core to Christmas which is wonderfully meaningful. Without the real core, the feast and the gifts and the decorations can become a bit empty. Christmas tells us that God has made himself known and he wants us to know him. Christmas is about relationship between us and God. And I've got three things to say this evening about God making himself known. Firstly, God has made himself known in history. The reading from Luke's Gospel about Jesus' birth began, in those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. I wonder how you feel about that statement. I can well imagine a number of you thinking, well, that's actually quite dull. And it's not very Christmassy, is it? Why is that in the Bible? The point is that the birth of Jesus happened at a particular point in history. God chose to make himself known through Jesus while Caesar Augustus was ruling the Roman Empire. And Augustus began his reign in the year 27 BC, and he ruled until his death in the year AD 14. That's just a few decades before Colchester was founded as a Roman fort. Jesus was born in history when Caesar Augustus was ruling, just a few decades before our city was founded. And Caesar Augustus took a census of everyone in the Roman world. He wanted data about the people in his empire, big data that could be analysed. And so everybody had to move about so that they could be counted. And Joseph went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem, the town of David. He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child. While they were there, the time came for the baby to be born. God made himself known in history in a particular place, Bethlehem. You can still visit Bethlehem today. It's a few hours' walk from Jerusalem. When God became a human in the person of Jesus, God became from somewhere. He became from Bethlehem. Now, I'm from somewhere. Everybody's from somewhere. Where are you from? What's your origin story? Everybody comes from somewhere. But God coming from somewhere, well, that sounds a bit unusual. God coming from somewhere, a place, Bethlehem. Originally, I'm from Windsor. And in my origin story, my birth, or should I say my nativity, took place a couple of hours' walk from Windsor in a famous town called Slough. And that wasn't because of a census, but because there was no NHS hospital in Windsor. When I was born, I became from somewhere, and it's on my passport to this day. When Jesus was born, God became from somewhere. He came from Bethlehem, and he got an ancestry and a family tree. My point is that the birth of Jesus does not begin once upon a time. Jesus' birth did not take place a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Jesus was not born in Never Never Land. No, God has made himself known in actual history at a particular time, the reign of Caesar Augustus, in a particular place, Bethlehem. The message of Christmas is that God has made himself known in history, in reality. Secondly, God has made himself known in a person. The beginning of John's Gospel that we've just heard read to us is an awesome piece of literature. And I do encourage you to study its meaning carefully. The more you understand it, the more wonderful and intriguing it becomes. Gospel writers Luke and Matthew begin Jesus' origin story in Bethlehem with family trees. Matthew's family tree of Jesus goes back to Abraham. Luke's family tree of Jesus goes back further, back to Adam and to God. But John's goes back further still. He starts Jesus' origin story before the creation of the universe. He refers to Jesus as the Word through which all things were made. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Through him, all things were made. Now, in describing Jesus as the Word, John took a concept from Greek literature in the centuries before Jesus was born. The Greek word, which is translated in our English Bibles as the word word, in the Greek original is the word logos. Greek thinkers wrote about the logos. And for one writer, the logos was a principle of transformation that orders the cosmos, a kind of cosmic principle. For another, logos means something like thinking. Thinking before you act, as opposed to just doing things by rote and habit, responding to your experiences in the world. Writer Christopher Watkin makes the important point that wherever logos is discussed in Greek writings before Jesus, the logos is not a person. The logos is impersonal. I'm getting a little bit philosophical here, but to help us, let's think about Star Wars. In Star Wars, the Force gives a spiritual element to the Star Wars universe. But the Force is impersonal. It's an energy that flows through all living things. You can't talk to the Force, and you can't listen to the Force speaking. The Force is impersonal. In contrast, what is striking about John calling Jesus the Logos, the Word, is that Jesus is a person. The message of Christmas is that God has made himself known personally through Jesus, born in Bethlehem. And the wow factor is that the baby Jesus in the makeshift crib that first Christmas night is the Word, the Logos, who made the cosmos. Now that is a big and amazing thing. Try to imagine that. Try to just take hold of that for a moment. This is what Christmas is about. In this sense, Christmas is cosmic. It's about the whole universe. God didn't make himself known as a principle that orders the cosmos. God didn't make himself known as a force that flows through all living things. No, the wonder of Christmas is that God made himself known in a person, Jesus. As we heard in the reading, the Word became flesh and made his dwelling amongst us. The Word got a body and lived in our world. The Logos through which all things were made, the stars and planets, the atoms and the quarks, the rivers and the trees, elephants and people, the Logos that made them all became flesh. This means that the Logos got a body like ours, a human body. And the Creator became part of his creation. The Maker was made in Mary's womb. The message of Christmas is that God has made himself known in a person. And as we think about these things, I hope you can see there's really no more wonderful thing to think about than this. It's such an incredible idea. Finally, the message of Christmas is that God has made himself known with a purpose so that we can become his children. For many people, the heart of Christmas is spending time with your family. And that may well be the case for many here this evening. Family is certainly at the heart of the British Christmas, with the feast and the sharing of gifts and the gathering together of several generations to eat a meal together. But wonderfully, in the beginning of John's Gospel, we find a deeper family heart to Christmas. God sent his Son, the Word, the Logos, so that we can join God's family. Christmas is about more than just our human family. It's about joining God's family. And the baby in the manger is the way to come into God's family. When Jesus grew up and became an adult, he said many awesome things like, "I'm the bread of life. Whoever believes in me will never be thirsty." Jesus said, "I'm the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die." And he said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." Jesus is the way into God the Father's family. He's the way for us to become a child of God. And I'm not making this up. This is real Christianity. This is why this church was built. John's Gospel, chapter 1, verse 12, explains how we can become children of God. Let me read it to you. "To all who received him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God." So the message of Christmas is that Jesus was born for a purpose, so that we can become God's children. And John tells us how to do it. We need to receive Jesus, that is, to accept him, to welcome him, to receive his teachings, which we have here today in the Bible. We need to receive him and we need to believe in him. This is why believing in Jesus is such a precious and important thing, because through it we can become children of God. So I've attempted to explain the message of Christmas and why it's still meaningful to celebrate the birth of Jesus 2025 years after the event. In summary, in the birth of Jesus, God has made himself known in history. In the birth of Jesus, God has made himself known in a person, not as an energy, not as a principle, but as an actual human, Jesus. And in the birth of Jesus, God has made himself known for a purpose, so that you and I can join God's family. That's the gift and offer of Christmas. Will you receive Jesus and believe in him? If you engage with Jesus, you can know God. That's the message of Christmas. As you think about his teaching in the Bible, you can know what pleases God. As you focus on his death on the cross, you can know the way to be saved for eternal life. So as much as we all enjoy the turkey and the trimmings and the crackers and the jokes and the beauty of the lights on the trees, don't leave Christmas there. That's all packaging. Go to the core of Christmas, which is knowing God through the person of Jesus.